It started on a rainy evening, the kind that makes the world feel smaller, quieter, almost lonely. Emma stood by her apartment window, watching the rain streak down the glass, thinking about how quiet her life had become. Then, her phone buzzed. "Hey, you alive over there? Or did the rain finally drown your spirit?" It was Liam, her best friend since college. Her constant, through breakups, job changes, and all the little heartbreaks that come with growing up. Emma smiled at the message. "Still alive. Just debating whether I should start talking to my plants." "Don't. You'll scare them," he replied. "I'll be there in 20. She frowned at the screen. "There?" Before she could respond, another text appeared. "Don't argue. You sound like someone who needs hot chocolate and company." And just like that, Liam showed up at her door, soaked from the rain, holding a grocery bag that smelled faintly of cinnamon. They'd done this 100 times, impromptu nights filled with laughter, movies, and long talks. But that night, something was different. Maybe it was the weather. Maybe it was how quiet the city seemed. Or maybe it was the way Liam looked at her when she handed him a towel. "Thanks," he said softly, his eyes holding hers for a second too long. Emma laughed to break the tension. "You look like a wet cat." "Wow," he replied, grinning. I risked my life in the rain for that compliment. But the laughter didn't quite chase away the feeling that lingered. A strange warmth, heavy but comforting. They settled on the couch, a blanket between them. The movie played, but neither was really watching. "Remember our last road trip?" Liam asked, glancing at her. "You sang the same song on repeat for 6 hours, Emma smiled. "Because you said you liked it." He tilted his head. "I did. Because you were singing it." For a second, the room went still. The rain softened against the window. The only sound was the faint hum of the TV. Emma's heart skipped. "You're unusually sentimental tonight," she said lightly, trying to brush it off. "Maybe I'm just realizing how much I like being here," he said. "With you." She turned toward him, her expression unreadable. "We've always been here, Liam." "Yeah," he said quietly. "But tonight feels different." Emma didn't know what to say. She didn't want to say the wrong thing. They'd built years of friendship, laughter, trust, and unspoken understanding. And yet, in that moment, all of it felt fragile. Like one wrong word could break it. She stood up suddenly. "I'll make more hot chocolate," she murmured. Liam nodded but didn't move. His eyes followed her to the kitchen. He looked thoughtful, almost torn. When Emma returned, she found him holding an old photo, the one from their first day at college. She was smiling too widely. He had his arm around her shoulder. "Do you ever miss that time?" he asked quietly. She handed him the mug. "Sometimes. Things felt simpler then." Liam looked at her again, really looked. "I think I've always known you'd be the one constant in my life." Her chest tightened. "Liam," he smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Don't worry. I'm not saying anything weird, just grateful." Emma sat beside him, the warmth of his shoulder close enough to feel but not touch. For a while, they said nothing, just listened to the rain and the soft hum of the world outside. When the storm grew heavier, the lights flickered and went out. The room fell into darkness. Emma gasped softly. "Well," Liam said, trying to sound calm, "guess we're officially trapped." "Don't joke," she whispered. "You know I hate this." "I know," he said. "Come here." She hesitated before scooting closer. He reached out, his hand brushing hers. Just a touch, gentle, grounding, and that touch changed everything. It wasn't a grand gesture. It wasn't planned. It was simple, two friends sitting in the dark, finding comfort in each other's presence. But it felt like something neither could undo. Later that night, after the power returned, Emma realized her heart hadn't stopped racing. She couldn't sleep, not with the way Liam's hand had lingered in hers. She replayed every look, every word, every silence. Something had shifted. And no matter how much she told herself it was nothing, she knew it wasn't. When she peeked into the living room, Liam was still awake. sitting on the couch staring at the window. Their eyes met. He gave a faint smile, the kind that said we both felt it, didn't we? Emma swallowed hard. You should get some rest, she whispered. Yeah, he said softly. You too. But neither moved. The air between them felt heavier than the rain outside. And deep down, Emma knew. After tonight, things would never be the same again. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the curtains as if nothing had changed. But everything had. Emma woke early, her heart still heavy from the night before. She stood in front of the mirror, brushing her hair, trying to pretend that things were normal. Down the hall, she could hear Liam moving around, the sound of the coffee maker, a cupboard opening, a quiet hum of a song he always sang when he cooked. For years, those sounds had meant comfort. Now, they only made her more aware of how her chest tightened whenever he was near. She stepped into the kitchen, forcing a smile. You're up early. Liam turned, holding 2 mugs. You forget who made breakfast on our road trips. Emma laughed, even though her stomach twisted. You mean the guy who burned pancakes twice? Hey, those were experiments, he said, grinning. Science is trial and error. He slid a plate toward her, scrambled eggs, toast, and the kind of unevenly sliced fruit only Liam could serve. It should have felt normal. But every glance, every laugh, carried something unspoken now. About last night. Emma started, but Liam quickly shook his head. You don't have to say anything, he said quietly. It was just different, she interrupted. He nodded. Yeah, different. They both avoided eye contact for a moment, pretending to be more interested in their food. But silence can be loud, especially when you're both thinking the same thing. After breakfast, Liam gathered his things. I should head home before traffic starts, he said, his voice steady but distant. Emma wanted to tell him to stay, to say that she didn't want the space between them to grow again, but she couldn't find the words, so she just nodded. Drive safe. He hesitated at the door. Emma. She looked up, his lips parted, like he wanted to say more, but then he sighed and smiled instead. See you later. And just like that, he was gone. The next few days dragged. They texted, but it wasn't the same. The easy jokes, the late-night calls, the way they used to talk about everything. It all faded into polite small talk. Emma missed him more than she wanted to admit. By the 4th day, she couldn't stand it anymore. She grabbed her phone and typed, "Want to grab coffee tonight?" Then deleted it. Then retyped it. Then deleted it again. Her heart jumped when her phone buzzed. A message from him. Hey, thinking of grabbing dinner near your place tonight. Want to join? Emma stared at the screen, her heart racing. Sure, she typed back. They met at a small diner they used to love. Red booths, soft music, and the smell of fresh pie in the air. Liam looked good, too good. His hair was slightly messy from the wind, and his smile, that same easy smile she'd always trusted, felt both familiar and foreign now. Hey, he said softly. Hey, she replied, trying not to let her nerves show. For a while, they talked like before, work, funny memories, old college stories. But beneath it all, there was tension neither could ignore. When the waitress left, Liam leaned forward. Can I ask you something? Sure. That night, he said slowly. Did it mean anything to you? Emma froze. What do you mean? He sighed. I mean, it wasn't just me, right? You felt something too. Her throat tightened. Liam, we've been friends for so long. I don't want to ruin that. He nodded, his expression soft but pained. I get that. I can't pretend it didn't happen. The silence between them stretched. Emma's heart beat hard against her ribs. Maybe we should just give it time, she said finally. Maybe we're both overthinking it. Liam smiled sadly. Maybe. Or maybe we've both been ignoring something real. His words hung in the air long after they left the diner. Outside, the sky was streaked with pink and orange. The evening breeze carried the faint scent of rain again. As they walked to their cars, Liam stopped suddenly. Emma, she turned. "If I tell you I can't go back to how things were," he said quietly, "what would you say?" She opened her mouth, but no words came. All she could do was stare at him, her pulse racing, her heart torn between fear and something dangerously close to hope. That night, Emma lay awake again. The sound of the rain against her window was softer this time, but her thoughts were louder. Could friendship survive this kind of shift? Could they find their way back? Or was something new trying to begin? She didn't know. But she knew one thing. She couldn't pretend anymore, and neither could he. For the next week, Emma tried to stay busy. She threw herself into work, into errands, into anything that would keep her from replaying Liam's words in her head. But nothing helped. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw that look on his face, honest, vulnerable, and unlike anything she'd seen from him before, and it scared her. Because deep down, she knew she felt the same. On Friday evening, her phone rang. Liam's name flashed across the screen. She hesitated before answering. Hey, he said softly. "I know you're probably tired, but there's this art fair downtown tonight. Remember the one we used to go to?" Emma smiled faintly. "Yeah. You mean the one where you spilled coffee on that painter's shoes?" He laughed. In my defense, I was trying to compliment her work. "Sure," she said, smiling despite herself. "So, want to go?" There was a pause, that familiar tug-of-war between what felt safe and what felt right. "Yeah," she said finally. "I'll go." Downtown was alive with light and sound. Soft music floated through the air, and the scent of roasted nuts and caramel drifted from nearby stalls. Emma felt the tension in her chest ease a little as they walked side by side, the night cool and calm around them. Liam bought her a cup of hot cider, just like he used to. She watched the steam curl into the air, thinking how easy this felt, and how impossible at the same time. "You look lighter tonight," he said. "Do I?" "Yeah, like you're not running from something." Emma looked at him. "Maybe I'm just tired of running." Their eyes met and lingered. They stopped at a small booth lined with photographs of city streets and quiet faces. Emma pointed at one, a black and white picture of two people sitting on a park bench, their hands barely touching. "I love this," she said. "It's simple, but it says everything." Liam studied it for a moment. "Kind of like us, huh?" Her heart skipped. "What do you mean?" He smiled faintly. "Always side by side. Never quite saying what we mean." Emma swallowed hard. "Liam." He looked at her then. Really looked. "Emma, I don't want to spend my life wondering what could have been. Not with you." She stood frozen, the noise of the fair fading into a soft blur. "Liam, you can't just—" "I can," he interrupted gently. "Because I've spent years pretending that being your friend was enough. But it's not anymore." Her pulse quickened. "You don't mean that." He took a step closer. "I do. You've been in every chapter of my life, Emma. And I want you in the next one, too. Not just as a friend." Emma blinked back the sting in her eyes. "But what if it ruins everything? What if it doesn't work?" He smiled, heartbreak in his voice. "Then we'll deal with it. But I'd rather risk losing what we have than live with never knowing what we could be." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then a gust of wind swept through, rustling her hair. Emma looked down, her fingers tightening around the warm cup in her hands. "I'm scared," she whispered. "I know," Liam said softly. "So am I." He didn't move closer, didn't push. He just stood there waiting, patient, steady, like he always had been. And that, more than anything, made her heart ache. When he finally drove her home, the car was silent. The streetlights passed in soft flashes of gold. As they pulled up in front of her apartment, Emma turned to him. "Liam, I just need time." He nodded. "Take it, I'll wait." Her voice cracked. "You can't say things like that." He smiled faintly. "You know I mean it." Then he reached over, brushed a strand of hair from her face, and whispered, "Good night, Em." She watched him drive away, her heart heavy with everything she couldn't say. That night, She stood by her window again, watching the city lights blur in the rain. It was strange how the same scene could feel so different. Before, she'd felt lonely. Now, she just felt lost. She picked up her phone, opened their chat, and typed, "I miss you." Then deleted it. Instead, she whispered it into the quiet room, knowing he'd never hear it. But deep down, she hoped he already knew. Emma hadn't seen Liam in almost 2 weeks. 2 weeks of silence that felt louder than any argument they could have had. She told herself it was for the best. That space would clear her thoughts, that things would go back to normal eventually. But the truth was, she missed him every single day. Every time her phone buzzed, her heart leapt, only to fall again when it wasn't him. Every place they'd been together carried his presence. The park bench, the bookstore they used to visit, even the tiny diner with the burnt pancakes. It was as if the whole city remembered him, even when he wasn't there. And one evening, as she sat in that same diner alone, she realized something she'd been trying to deny. She wasn't afraid of losing him as a friend. She was afraid of admitting she loved him. That night, she went home and opened her journal, the one she'd kept since college. Flipping through the pages, she found one from years ago. A list titled "Things I Love About Liam." She smiled sadly as she read it. His laugh, his loyalty, the way he always noticed when she was quiet. Even then, she'd known. Her phone lay beside her on the table, the screen black. She stared at it for a long time before finally picking it up and typing, "Are you home?" It took less than a minute for the reply to come. "Yeah, why?" She hesitated, then wrote back, "Can I come over?" When Liam opened the door, his surprise was written all over his face. "Emma?" "Hey," she said softly. He looked uncertain, but stepped aside. "Come in." The room was warm, dimly lit. A movie played quietly on the TV, but he muted it. Emma stood near the window, her hands trembling slightly. "I wasn't sure if I should come," she began. "But I couldn't keep avoiding this." Liam nodded, his voice low. "I wasn't going to push. I figured you needed time." "I did," she said. "But the more time I took, the more I realized what I already knew." He looked at her, eyes searching. "And what's that?" "That I care about you," she whispered. "Not just as a friend." "Not anymore." Liam's breath caught. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then, slowly, he stepped closer. "You don't know how long I've waited to hear that," she smiled faintly. "I think I do." He laughed softly, a sound full of relief and disbelief. "You have no idea how many times I almost told you. But I didn't want to risk losing you." Emma's eyes shimmered. "And I almost lost you anyway." Liam reached out, hesitated, then gently took her hand. "So what now?" The question hung in the air like a heartbeat. Emma looked at him, really looked. The man who'd been beside her through everything. The one who made her laugh, who listened, who never left. She squeezed his hand. "We take it slow. We figure it out together." He smiled, the tension melting from his face. "I can do that." For the first time in weeks, Emma felt calm. The fear was still there, yes, but beneath it was something stronger. Hope. They spent the next hour talking about small things, big things, and everything in between. It wasn't dramatic or cinematic. It was real, simple, honest. When she finally stood to leave, Liam walked her to the door. "Emma," he said quietly, "thank you for not giving up on us." She looked at him, her eyes soft. "You've been my best friend for half my life, Liam. I think I owe us both a chance to see what else we could be." He smiled, his voice almost a whisper. "Then I'll make sure it's worth it." That night, as Emma walked home, the streets glowed with soft rainlight. Her heart felt lighter than it had in months, but even as she smiled, a quiet thought crept in. Love changes everything. And sometimes, even the right love comes with challenges you don't expect. Because deep down, she knew this was only the beginning. The days that followed felt like the beginning of something Emma had never known before. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't even easy. But it was real. Liam and Emma were no longer just friends. And yet some days they still acted like they were. They laughed over morning coffee, argued over silly things, and shared quiet evenings that felt heavier than words could hold. It was as if their friendship had grown new roots, deeper, stronger but fragile in its own way. One Sunday morning, they went on a small road trip, the kind they used to take back in college. The radio played softly, the sky stretched wide and clear above them, and Emma leaned her head against the window, smiling at the familiar rhythm of his humming. At a rest stop, Liam bought her a paper cup of coffee and a muffin, just like old times. She looked at him across the small wooden table. "You know," she said, "we still do all the same things. They just feel different now," he smiled. "Because they mean more now," Emma nodded. "Yeah, they do." When they got back home, Emma found herself standing in her kitchen later that evening, staring at the little photograph Liam had given her from the art fair, the black and white one of the two people sitting on a bench. He'd written something on the back. Some stories were always meant to change. She traced the words with her fingers and smiled, but even as she smiled, her phone buzzed. It was Liam. "Can I come over?" Minutes later, he stood at her door, looking uncertain. "You okay?" she asked. He nodded. "Yeah, just needed to see you." There was a quiet pause before he said, "I got a call today. A job offer." "Out of state," Emma froze. "Out of state?" "Seattle," he said softly. "It's a big opportunity, Em. One I didn't expect." The words hit her harder than she thought they would. He wasn't leaving tomorrow, but the idea of him leaving at all hurt more than she could admit. "Wow," she said finally. "That's amazing, Liam. You've worked for that kind of chance for years." He looked at her carefully. "You're happy for me, right?" She nodded, forcing a smile. "Of course I am." But he didn't miss the way her voice trembled. "I haven't decided yet," he said. "Because of you." Emma took a step back. "Liam, you can't do that. You can't stay because of me." "Why not?" he said quietly. "You're part of my life now." She shook her head, her eyes glistening. "And I want you to live yours fully. Even if that means going." He walked closer, his voice low. "So what happens to us?" Emma hesitated. "We figure it out. Long distance isn't the end of a story. Not if it's real." He studied her for a long moment before nodding slowly. "You're stronger than I am," she smiled faintly. "No, I'm just scared in a different way." Liam reached out and took her hand. "I don't want to lose you." "You won't," she whispered. "Even if miles come between us, you won't." A few weeks later, he left for Seattle. They stood at the airport holding on to each other longer than either wanted to let go. "Call me when you land," she said, her voice soft but steady. He smiled. "You'll be the first person I call." She nodded, blinking back tears. "Go chase that dream. I'll be right here." He looked at her, eyes full of everything words couldn't express. "You always were." And then he was gone. The first night without him felt quiet. Too quiet. The space he filled in her life seemed impossible to replace. But every text, every call, every late-night video chat reminded her that distance couldn't erase what they'd found. They were still them. Just with more miles in between, and somehow that made it even more meaningful. Months passed. Emma found herself stronger, steadier, more certain of what love really meant. It wasn't always being side by side. It was about choosing someone, again and again, no matter how far apart you were. Then, one afternoon, she received a photo message. It was the same art fair, the same kind of photograph, two people sitting close on a bench. Under it, Liam had written, "Next year, same place." "You and me," Emma smiled, tears filling her eyes, because she knew, without a doubt, that some friendships were never meant to stay the same. They were meant to become love stories. And so, even though they started as just friends, that night, the night when everything changed, became the beginning of something neither of them would ever let go of. Forever.